right. Good evening. One of the wonderful things of our work here in this district is the opportunity to celebrate our young people for their accomplishments. I'm going to invite Teresa Camitas to guide us in celebrating our winter athletic recognition.
Everyone, if you could join us in the center, we would appreciate that. Okay, our Board of Education is proud to acknowledge the award-winning efforts of our students who have received state and/or national recognition for their school-related activities. Tonight, we're going to congratulate the coaches and students who competed in place in Skills USA State Leadership and Skills Conference. Skills USA recognizes career and technical education students who excel in their occupational and spotlight leadership development activities that are integral parts of the Skills USA program. The Oswego East students are coached by Mr. Brian Allen. Switch mics on you. Here we go. Brian Allen and Ben Niles, and the Oswego High students are coached by Kevin Patterman and Tom Dwyer and Dwayne Wilson. Students, as your name is called, please come forward so you can be congratulated by our Board of Education and Dr. Calgatti, and then just stay up here so we could do a photo after. From Oswego High School, Kristen Grubricki, senior, first place national qualifier in culinary art. Next is Phoenix Goldstein, senior, first place in national qualifier in restaurant service. Next is Daniel Overstreet, a senior, second place in cabinet making. Next, we have a team of Cody Christ, Jr., Jake Dillon, sophomore, Zach Pulver, Jr., and Anthony Thompson, Jr. They placed second place in Teamworks Construction. And an Oswego East student, Dominic DeMattis, sophomore, third place in cabinet making. Okay, if we have building administrators here this evening or coaches present, if you could come up, join us for a photo. All right, yeah, don't be shy. Okay, guys. Here we go. Stay there for just a second. We're going to let parents. Hey, how about one more round of applause? Congratulations. Oh. We found the ladder. Thanks, Bill. We got tall kids up here. Here we go. Congratulations, students. Also, this evening, our Board of Education acknowledges our Pride winners for the month of May. Pride stands for proudly recognizing individuals demonstrating excellence. The Board of Education implemented the program in the fall of 2015 to recognize, promote, and celebrate the many contributions made by teachers and employees across our district. We thank our generous district partners, ServBank, Huntington Learning Center, Chick-fil-A, and Culver's for helping make this program a success. We would also like to thank all of those who have nominated individuals for consideration. This is our final Pride recognition for the 23-24 school year. Awardees, after we call your name, please come forward and be congratulated by the board and Dr. Calgatti, and we'll ask for you to stay up there as we take our photo. We'll begin with our May Teachers of the Month. First is Nick Dunn, Oswego High School Dean's Office. Nick has gone above and beyond with reviving our annual staff volleyball tournament. From securing the date to helping with promotion, recruiting teams, establishing rules, setting up nets, the sound system, and all the logistical components. From his position inside the school, Nick reached out and helped with organizing an event that brought together staff, parents, and students across our district for a time of fun and friendly competition. This task was all in addition to his normal role at OH. This dedication in creating and sustaining a culture of collaboration is so valuable. Congratulations, Nick. Next is Sheila O'Brien, Oswego East High School Orthopedic and Health Impairment Intern. Sheila puts her heart and soul into everything she does to provide for the needs of so many students throughout the day as she travels to different buildings, navigates the IEP needs of many, fills in to provide various physical care needs, manages meetings, trains staff on each student's needs, and countless other forms of assistance. She also provides the support and guidance for many TAs and teachers in SD308. Her students know they can count on her, and she is a constant in a sea of changes each year for her students. Congratulations. Next is Jennifer Tui, Oswego East High School 504 Coordinator. We will move on to our, go ahead. We will move on to the picture. If we could have building admin come forward. And stay there for just 1 second. I think we have some others that want to grab a photo. Okay, congratulations, teachers. Next, we will award our amazing support staff winners. Awardees, again, please come forward as your name is called. Our May support staff of the month include Dave Milansky, transportation bus driver. Congratulations. Every day, Mr. Dave welcomes students with a smile, a high five, and a warm greeting. Parents feel blessed to have him take their students to school, indicating that they feel safe and always eager to see Mr. Dave. The students from Brokaw who ride his bus, as well as their parents, have thoroughly enjoyed having him as their bus driver this year, and they want to say congratulations, Mr. Dave. Next is Taria Brooks, Wolves Crossing Special Education Teaching Assistant. Taria brings joy and humor wherever she goes. She cares about her students and is not afraid to advocate for them. She jumps in whenever and wherever she's needed. Her fun personality is contagious and draws others to her. She is the glue holding the school's special education program together. Congratulations. Next is Joy Gatz, Oswego East High School College and Career Center Manager. Joy is new to the Student Services team at OEHS and has blown them away. She is bringing new ideas and starts every day excited to work with students. This year was their first college and career evening fair, and despite joining the team late in the game, she blew it out of the water. OE feels so lucky to have Joy. Congratulations. We'll ask any administrators here this evening to join us, and we're going to do our photo. Final round of applause for our winners this evening. Did you get what you want? Do we have some more photos? Feel free to come forward. Okay, congratulations, everyone. On behalf of our Board of Education and our administration, we again want to do a shout out to our program sponsors and to everyone that took time to nominate someone here this evening, and watch for the program to resume again in the fall. Thank you.
Good evening, Board. For 6.2, just as a matter of order, 6.1 will be a part of the student ambassador report. So we can go move to 6.2, Board.
Good, perfect.
Yes, we moved to 16.
Okay. All right, 6.2, we want to welcome, has been our tradition this year. We've appreciated hearing presentations. I'm going to invite Dr. Waller to welcome. We have the Latin American Student Organization presenting this evening, and I'm going to invite Dr. Waller to open up.
Hi, good evening. We have some phenomenal women over here, young ladies who would like to share with the board and the community their experience and how they advocate for their Latin American Student Association or organization. They have worked very hard to put together just some experiences that they've had and that they've shared within their school community. And so they are here with us this evening. And do you all have the mic? Sky, can you grab the mic? And then that way you all can introduce your sponsors and yourselves. Thank you so much for being here this evening.
Oh, yay. Okay. All right. Hola, me llamo Jessica Yandun. I am one of the sponsors for LASO, and I'm also a teacher at Oswego High School. So we're super excited to let you guys know what we've been doing this school year.
Hello, everyone. I'm Francisca Castellanos Lopez. I teach Spanish 1 and Spanish 2 at Oswego High School. This is my first year here, and I'm another sponsor for LASO, too.
Hello, I'm Mia Medina, and I am one of the board members of LASO, and I am currently a sophomore.
I'm Sky Weaver. I'm also a board member for LASO, and I'm a junior.
I'm Sara Yumaya. I'm also a board member of LASO, and I'm a junior.
Okay, so our purpose as a club is to celebrate our heritage, foster cultural connections, and create a supportive community for all. Well, we welcome you to discover the richness of Latinx culture through events, discussions, and collaborations that unite and empower us.
Okay, so some of the events we've had with LASO have been a Chipotle fundraiser. With the money we raised for the Chipotle fundraiser, we used it for a Latinx student scholarship. Another event we had was Conchas y Café, which was an informational session for post-grad parents whose students are entering college. We also had Comunicarte, which was a practice session for non-native speakers to practice their Spanish and feel more comfortable speaking and also learn a little bit more about the language. We also had guest speakers, President of AU and State Representative Barbara Hernandez. And our most recent event has been La Kermés, which was an event with cultural foods, music, games, and with the money we raised for this event, we used it for 2 senior scholarships of $400 each.
Okay, so here are just some flyers we made, including La Kermés, La Conchisa Cafe with Chipotle, and the Comunicarte.
So the president of AU is the first woman and Latina to be president at that school. And when she came to talk to us, she talked about her upbringing and challenges she faced as a Latin immigrant. And she also inspired us through those stories. And she showed us that as Latinos, we can become something more and earn jobs in higher levels.
And then we also had State Representative Barbara Hernandez. She's in the State House, and she talked to us about being one of the youngest members, also being Latina in there, one of the only Latinas. She talked about other things such as DACA, scholarships, but also about a project that the coalition has been doing with their menstrual products in the restrooms. She was actually the one who passed that, and she discussed that, how to gain funding for that, and recently she actually passed a bill to fund that, and we will be trying to use that.
So for El Día de los Muertos, for El Día de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, in case you didn't know, we got together and we participated in cultural activities and traditions that take place during that day. And we also honored our loved ones who have passed away by writing their name on a flower petal called a cempasúchil. And we placed it on an altar that is seen in the picture right there on the left.
And then when, not Barbara Hernandez, when Dr. Rivera Mills came to talk to us, she actually got it posted on the AU Facebook page that, hey, she talked to us. It was a nice little win for us, got some advertising out there, also shows our awesome shirts we're wearing. It was just a nice opportunity to express who we are and what we're about.
So for La Kermés, this was an event open for the public, for all OHS students and their parents. And with this event, all the students and parents got together to make cultural foods in which we sold to raise money for the scholarships, which were the 2 of $400. We had live music, we had dances, food, we had a variety of different Latin American cultures displayed, such as Argentina, Ecuador, Panama, and Mexico. We also had temporary tattoos, coloring, face paint for little kids, so they could have fun. Yeah.
So some of the challenges that we have faced during this school year is that students are stop attending to the meetings, but they show up to support us for the events. So that's something that we want to get improved more for the students. And also we plan to do a couple field trips. We plan to do a field trip to the Mexican Art Museum, also the Puerto Rican Art Museum, and the most important one that we want to attend is to Oshley. So that's the Latinx Leadership Conference. And also we want to bring more guest speakers to the students so that way they can get more motivated and to be more and feel more important in the society that probably they feel like is a minority. And also we want to include the club size of the club because we want to also have more students, even though if they don't speak the language, we want to be having those students too.
All right,
A couple of things that would help LASSO. We thought of 3 things. The first one would be dual credit. Currently, Spanish Speakers 2 is not a dual credit. Spanish 4 is, and both lead into AP Spanish Language and Literature. So we would love to have the opportunity for them to get college credit through these classes. Funds for our Spanish-speaking students, ELL families for more events, FAFSA workshops. We would also like to have a Latinx PTA, so that's something that we would need funds for. And then the third, a resource office. We would love to have a physical space for a liaison between students and staff and our whole community, a place where they can get support managing and navigating the school system here in the United States. It's different than in other countries, so that would be great. And then, yeah, thank you guys. We appreciate your time. Any
Questions from the board? Yeah.
Please talk to us. We're cool.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I'm glad you called out the families and, supporting that. I think a lot of these, the things that help probably align with the things that we're hoping to do. Now, whether I don't know how, it's not for me, but no, I appreciate you. I just appreciate that you're calling that out. So.
I want to say gracias a ustedes por la presentación. I know that those events and all those things that you're putting together is a lot of hard work for an exec board to put together. So thank you for all of that. I was at the Kermes with my daughters, so awesome event. I want to say, in the vein of teacher appreciation, thank you to the sponsors as well.
Yes.
I know it takes a lot of hard work as well to put that together, and not always a lot of extra support for that. So thank you for that. To Miss Yandun, I had the chance to work alongside Miss Yandun 10 years ago, and I actually hired Miss Yandun at Oswego High School, so we were best hire. So I'm so proud to see where the support and how she's grown as an advocate for our Latin American students, and she's also a community member, so thank you, amiga. The last thing I'll say is that there was a request there for dual credit for Spanish speakers too. This to me is an equity issue, as I know your group, I'm sure, aligns with that. Spanish 4 is at the same level. It's offered to non-Spanish speaking students and Spanish speaking students, and it's a dual credit course, and SSS 2 is specifically for Spanish speakers, but it's not offered as a dual credit. So I'm hoping that's something that we can resolve fairly quickly, so that we can make sure we have the equitable path for our Spanish speakers.
Great,
Thank you.
thank
Thank you.
Anything else? Sorry.
I just want to say, well, first of all, to your point, I have a feeling that's going to come up when we talk about our legislative committee, the dual credit piece. So if you want to stick around for that, stick around. But I just want to say thank you. I actually have a junior in my household who just succeeded at passing for his seal of biliteracy. And listen, while I'm happy, while I'm ecstatic, and yes, thank you to it doesn't get there without teachers, I think there's another piece that we need to thank, and that's thank all of you, because anyone who's been in any of these types of programs where you reach a seal of biliteracy, it's such an advantage and an asset when you have students and peers around you who welcome you, joyfully teach culture, embrace culture together, embrace language together, moving towards a more multilingual society. And so I thank also the students, because I don't think he gets there without all of them. So thank you.
Yes. Yeah, I was just excited to hear. I don't know which one of you said it, but it was in one of the events, and you were talking about promoting non-Spanish speaking students attending. And I think that that's a phenomenal idea, because my son did not speak Spanish, started Spanish here, and still has Spanish now that in college, and he just appreciates the culture so much. And so I think that that's absolutely a wonderful idea to make sure that everyone has access to learn about all the phenomenal things that you're doing. So great work.
I just love that you came out to present tonight. We don't have any idea what is out there in the district unless it's brought to our attention. So I always love learning about what's going on out there. Dr. Murillo actually answered my question about dual credit. That is something that definitely is important, and we will fully advocate for and do what we can. We have a new assistant superintendent for multilingual learners coming in, who I think will be able to really help elevate and support you in a lot of these things. So thank you so much. I know sometimes when you put your heart and soul into things and you don't get the turnout at the meetings and so forth, it can be frustrating. So really dig in and find out why they're not coming, and find other ways to see how maybe it's virtual, maybe it's something else, but don't give up just because of that, because you're doing some amazing things. Thank you very much.
So how did you determine to use the money for scholarships?
Okay, so I can answer this one. So I was looking around at like the art programs getting scholarships, and I'm like, did we used to have one? And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't know personally. So I talked to Senior Andu, and I'm like, hey, what if we do that? And she mentioned that. You were in the conversation. But so she mentioned that it was an idea that she's been pondering for a long time. So I'm like, why don't we do this? And so a friend of ours helped set up the Chipotle fundraiser, which we got a good amount of money from that. And then we also wanted to throw an event. We just weren't sure what to do. So I'm like, what's the type of party we throw? La Kermesse. And so we kind of pieced it together with things of Mexican culture, Panamanian culture, and so many other cultures. So we can just be Lasso, not just Mexico and other cultures.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
I actually did have one last question. I'm assuming that the Mexican Art Museum, that's the one in Pilsen, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, that is,
I've been
anyone gets a chance, go.
I love
is
it.
fun. Yes, one of my faves. Yes.
My cousin was talking to me the whole time about it. She's like, you have to look at this, you have to look at that. It was so fun. I think it'll be good for Lasso to visit as well.
You're not going to say it, but she's also a part of the SSAC. She rocks, so thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. She'll be back later.
I like talking.
Well, thank you so much, all of you. Please put your hands together for the amazing Lasso Executive Board and their sponsors. Thank you for sharing your story and for filling our cups this evening, and we will see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
6.3, we want to welcome Rob Schwartz from RSP Demographer. I will say that programs like we just heard from Lasso, this kind of initiative is exactly why our area is just such a wonderful and vibrant community to move into. And Rob has come up to share with us some of the highlights from our most recent demographic study that we launched as part of our budget planning process this year. As we started to think about the priorities, it was really important to get close to really what are the current status of our demography and what is of our trends. So I'll turn it over to you, sir. And Mr. Obafemi also has worked very closely. Anything else, Mr. Obafemi?
I just wanted to reaffirm what Dr. Kogari said, that when it comes to planning the district's future, whether financial allocation of staff resources, as well as just facility planning, short-term, long-term, it's important to know what our demographic outlook is. And working with RSP has helped us to be able to do that. Thank you.
Great. Good evening. You filled your cup, now it gets drained, right? All right, so in another side note, as I walked in, several people remembered me from years ago, and are we changing boundaries? No, we're not changing boundaries, so not yet.
Thank you.
Wrong answer.
Right.
So just a little bit for people to know, I believe it was 2012 when we started working here. So it goes back to, I think, Dr. O'Donnell when he was here. So a rich history with your community to assist you in your planning efforts. One thing that I did want to remark on about RSPs, we exclusively work with school districts. and we do a lot of work here in Chicago. So I'm up here quite a bit. In fact, this morning when I flew in, I drove through some of the developments just to get a sense of what's been happening. And there's a lot of dirt moving in some places, and you'll see that in our analysis. The way that we've categorized this report, a little bit different than years past. There's more infographics that are in this presentation, and there's more things that will help you understand what some of the specifics are that's happening on each of those slides. In general, the report is categorized in these 4 parts. So we have enrollments is part 1, part 2 is the developments, part 3 is the projections, and then part 4 is what are our next steps. 100,000 foot perspective. So we try to categorize this in 3 areas. This is a great page for you to know. This is all you got to remember with whatever Rob is talking to you about tonight. And the first is that enrollments overall, district-wide, is going to still decrease over the next 5 years. We'll talk about a few of the things that we think are emerging. So we have a more stable enrollment. There's still decrease, but you're going to see some positives with our elementary enrollment, which sets the tide when we get 7 years, 10 years down the road of more students. The second piece is with capacity. We do have some buildings that are at a point where during this 5-year projection time period, we're going to be over capacity. We'll talk about that. We can have a plan for that. It's not anything that we immediately need to do anything. The third piece is with development. There's a lot more development. We've been talking for years things that would happen on Wolf's Road or Wolf's Crossing, depending on what you want to call it, right? Things that are happening in Plainfield, things that are happening up in Montgomery. So there's some stuff that's breaking loose that we've been watching and monitoring, and it's part of our projections. The next few visuals are going to be some maps. And I'm not going to go page by page. You guys have all of this. I'm going to hit some of the highlights. So people are like, are you going to go 70 pages?
Oh, yeah.
It'll pick up. So just some visuals with some of the attendance boundaries, right? So we got to have a visual of where we are, how that relates to our feeder system. So where we have the dotted lines with Southbury, how it's broke between 2 of our junior highs. Everything goes back to the planning area, so a neighborhood. So think about single-family developments, mobile homes, apartments, duplexes. We're trying to quantify what subdivision or what number of students change are occurring in each of those planning areas. It's a statistical model, so it's a social science. Been pretty remarkably accurate. I think one person to my back remembers the last time we did redistricting and revisited how accurate was the forecast, and we were 99% accurate with what we thought 5 years prior. So again, that's kudos to your community members. Them taking time to visit with our team so we can understand the timing and the type of developments that are being built, and some of the developers as well. This visual I want to spend just a moment on because this helps you understand when you look at the projections, how do things impact what's happening in each of those planning areas. I want to just call out one variable, mortgage interest rates. So last week the Fed Reserve said, let's hold steady, which means about 7%. So when we look at this model, it has a differing impact on things where if I have a loan that's 3%, probably going to stick, right? I'm not going to move to a more expensive loan. I also, if the interest rates are going to be at 7%, I can afford less. So what does that mean and what I can afford? That's factored into what our modeling is saying. Plus it's an election year, so we see some nuances. The next piece that I want to spend a little bit of time on is your live bursts. This is something that's impacting the entire country, definitely the state of Illinois. When you look at this table, this is really kind of daunting when you go back to 2005 with the number of live births that were just in King County. And so when we look at King County back in 2005, we had 8,600 live births. 2022, about 5,500, right? So when we look at this, what we're trying to understand is 5 years later, what is our market share for kindergartners? Knowing that this is not a complete set, there could be a lot of babies that were born in September, October, November, and December, 5 years later, probably not going to be kindergartners. We also know that people that were born here 5 years ago, they don't live here, so migration out. And we know people that are new to the community that weren't here 5 years ago may have had babies born 5 years ago. So what this starts to tell us is, in order for us to have a certain number of students in future years for kindergarten, we have to have something remarkable change. What's our market share? So drawing them in. So what's the cool, awesome programming that we provide at the early childhood level and then on into kindergarten? And then what's happening with some of these new developments and how do they maybe impact the number of kids that we could see?
Can I say one thing real quick to
You
that?
bet.
I know you said 100,000 feet. I'm going to go to 500,000 feet. And I think it's just important that people realize when they're looking at just demographics from a macro scale. I think there's one state in the union that has like where their natural birth rate is outpacing the natural death rate, right? And I think that's Utah, and that's it. Otherwise, we are only boosting from the outside. And while I appreciate all of this, and I promise I'll drop back down to 100,000, but I just think it's important for people to realize there's going to be some serious ramifications as a society as a whole that we're going to have to adjust to, and I'm sure some of that will kind of intermingle. But I want to go 500,000 for a moment, and then we can come back down to 100.
For sure. Yeah, it's definitely something that's going to impact this country in a way that nobody really has strategically thought about.
I agree.
Right.
Yes.
And that's part of the advantage of this analysis that we're providing you. It's like we can start thinking about if we're not going to get those market shares and if we stay at this 5,500 level of live births, how do we plan for the future? Again, we show it for Kendall County as well. Again, here we've actually seen some slight upticks, and some of that's related to some of the new development in this portion of your district that's in that county. The same thing for Will County. So again, a significant drop in Will County. When we look at past enrollments, really what I want you to understand on this page, this is the wave. If you think of a wave coming in and out, this is the students as they move through the system. So as we look at the number of students by grade, go down to that bottom row, and when you look at the, we'll say the 9th grade class, and we're at 1380, as you go up, you can see that's a larger class than almost, I believe, every single year, but 1 or 2 years. So what does this start to tell us is some of the larger grades are in the secondary, and as they move through the secondary and as the middle schoolers come in, we start to see some of what I told you, the middle school and high school grades will be stable to slight decreases. So that's what this page helps you understand. When we look at the cohort by change, this helps illustrate as the students move through the system, what's that change year to year? And what I always try to focus on, what's really cool in your district, and I know it's really small up on the screen, small enough even for me to put my glasses on, but when you look at the last 2 years, it's really been phenomenal what we've seen for cohort change at the elementary level. And if we continue to have this is what our model is starting to pick up, is we're seeing growth that we have not seen in a long time in most of those elementary grades. And so because of that, that's starting to say, hey, with this change in students, we're going to see more elementary kids. And some of it's driven by development, some of it's driven by migration. But come back to this page. There's a lot of little nuggets on that. Migration, this is a way that we try to understand the movement of students. We show it to you for the last 3 years, so really focusing on post-COVID and what have we seen with migration of students. So the green parts of the bar represent students the previous year were receiving services, and then in that year, they're no longer receiving services. Orange is the positive. They're new to the district. So we show you for the last 3 years at each of the grade bands. And so remarkably, one of the things I've mentioned with administration is look at the reduction that we've seen for out-migration at the elementary level. This, and then when you look at the cohort change, this is why that's happening. So some things are occurring. We also looked at your out-of-district students, so students that don't live within your district boundaries. Where are we getting the majority of those from these 5 school districts? And so you can see that breakdown, and we see a stability of students where we're roughly 70 to 80 students. We also, because of those planning areas, you'll see some visuals of what it's been like over the last 5 years, orange being an increase, green being a decrease, what's occurring in specific places of your community. We have a heat map, so the red areas represent the greatest density of students. Again, just to understand where are the students, how does this relate to some of our buildings, how does this relate to the attendance boundaries. When you get back to, I said there's a couple buildings where we do have some challenges over the next 5 years. So again, we have some positive things with enrollment growth. We have some other things that say, hey, we better watch. There could be some negatives, namely live births. Then as we started to look at your development from touring the district, meeting with the cities, villages, we started to try to understand how do all of these things mesh up with the 2020 census data, which is the green line. So for your district boundary, we have more people moving into your community. The blue line represents the certificate of occupancy, so we have activity that's happening, and we have had some years, a couple years ago, where we had quite a few apartments came on, so that was kind of the bubble where it welled up. I also want to make note, certificate of occupancies is when you can move into those structures. It's not building permits. We look at the building permits, but we want to know when families can move into the households. That's when we get kids. We then also try to transfer that over to what is the enrollment change. So is there correlation to more people in the community, building activity, and then what does that mean for our students? Namely, trying to get at the millennials. Are they having kids, and are they having more kids? Typically, they're waiting longer and they're having few kids, driven by a lot of factors. We also show you some things that help you understand with specific type of developments, how many students do we get? I'm just going to focus on the bottom row. That's our district average K-5 for single family students. And what that means is back in 2014, we were yielding 36 K-5 students for every 100 single family units. Here in 2023, we dropped to 28, and we built about 1,800 units in that time period. This is pretty typical when we get into some of these other slides, but I first want to say here's single family where we're in that roughly 28, 30 for K-5 students for every 100 units. When we look at multifamily units, half as many students. Clustered, more dense, but we get fewer kids from multifamily developments. You can see with each of these two tables, we show up by each of the existing elementary attendance boundaries. Where you see green, it's lower than 3 students from the district average. Where it's greater than 3, it's orange. And it changes. You can see that just year by year. Other things that we looked at was what is the year built, because that again goes back to our planning areas. What's happening with the age of inventory? We've looked at the value of homes to understand how is that correlating to the number of students we could see. We then looked at what units were built specifically, and on this we're zoomed out to your entire district, but the dots represent the units that were built over the last 5 years. This is the slide where I want to tell you what's been happening with developments. When we look at this illustration, the yellow represents the number of units at the start of the decade. The blue represents what was built. Look at that in the 2000 decade. That's where we just boomed. It was on fire here, right? And so with that construction activity, that led to our enrollment boom. So now when we look at the last 3 years worth of data, we've already outpaced last decade. So we're definitely having more than last decade, right? Are we going to have as many as the 2000 decade? I don't think so. I don't think we're going to be close to that, but we're going to have quite a bit of developments. From all of that information that we garnered, we created a map that helps you understand it's applied back into our model. And so we show many different colors on here that range from green being current all the way down to the blue where it's longer range. We've done that for your district so that, like as I was driving up Ridge Road, you start to see a lot of culverts and dirt moving, right? So we've applied that into our model of like a timing when do we potentially see units. That's why we do this every year. This development table helps you understand how it relates to each of the high schools and where we're seeing development, because all that information on the map is tied back to a table. There's stuff in the appendix where you can drill in, and you want to know some of the names of the developments at the time we did this study. It's in there. So again, we see a lot of positive things happening with your development, in spite of it being a national election year, which typically is a year where the shine of building is kind of a little bit less robust. But we see a lot of things that are already in play prior to coming into this year that are moving forward. So what did that mean for our projections? So when we look at the projections, you can see where we've been in the past. And we've broken this out where when you look at those bars, the red is the elementary, the blue is your junior high, the green is the high school. There's a purple line that's the aggregate of all three of those. So right now we're at about 16,140 students, and you can see over the next 5 years we have you just under 16,000 students when we get out to 27, 28. You can see on this chart the elementary enrollment starts to increase. So again, if we start to see the elementary increase, you get beyond those 5 years, they move into the middle school, get out towards 7 years, they start to get in the high school, so you can see that wave of kids that starts to move through. All of this information I'll explain on the next page. This is really where everything comes to light. What does this mean as we look at the buildings and those projections? So on the left-hand side, you have each of the buildings. As you move to the right, you have the capacity for those buildings. And then as you continue to move to the right, for the last 4 school years, we show the enrollments 3 different ways. The middle row for each building that's in the green fonts, that's the reside. So based on where the student resides when we geocode them to those attendance boundaries, who resides there. The bottom row, blue font, attend, is based on the student data, how many students are actually attending that building. The top row, purple font, reside/attend, that's a subset of reside. Do they actually reside and attend that building? This gives you a complete picture of the past of how the students are moving through. When I look at these numbers, it helps us understand what I would quantify as school choice. School choice not necessarily being just driven by a parent choice. It may be where programs are or are not in buildings that are driving where kids can go to school. So that shows you the flow as we move through the projection periods. We show you the reside and the attend. So if everybody went to school where they should based on the boundary, that's the reside. The attend, we try to get at, hey, there's some changes happening. Could be programs, could be intra-district transfers, and there's a page in the appendix where you can look at that. How is that impacting the number of students in those buildings? We also have shading on this page that helps you understand how this all ties back to capacity. So where it's shaded in green, it's under 70% utilization. Where it's shaded in that peachy color, that means it's over the building capacity, so it's over 100%. And so when we look at Long Beach for the reside, they're over, but when the flow of students moves around, we're fine. We don't have a capacity issue. But when we look at Southbury, when we get out 3 years, we have capacity issues over that number in both the reside and the attend. So that's how you look at that information, and that's the elementary. We then have the secondary, and so no overcapacity issues. So we have some flexibility where space can be used maybe differently for how you want to see programming work in some of these buildings. So a different position than what we've had. If you went back 10 years ago, we weren't talking about it in that manner. We were talking about, do we build a 3rd high school? Do you remember how great that decision was to not build it? Imagine that right now, right? So again, using this data to your efforts as a board member to make good decisions is what I really want you to have as a takeaway. This page just helps illustrate that breakdown of what's happening with some of the different trends. As we get into the next steps, I just really want to highlight really the key considerations. Those are the big points here. We got to continue to track the LIBURS and what we get for our market share. If that dramatically changes, our outlook for the future will also change. We need to continue seeing what that natural change is in students as the seniors graduate, new kindergartners come in, and as they matriculate through. The migration, I told you some positive things with our migration, specifically at the elementary level. Does that continue? That's necessitated for us to see our outcome in 5 years. And of course, the building trends, do they continue? Do they stick? And do we see families that can afford this new housing product and have kids? Yeah, I'm not going to go over the appendix. There's some cool things there. If some questions allude to it. That's really now where I'll hand off to you as board members, comments, questions. If I can answer them, I will. If not, I'll get back with the superintendent on those specific answers.
I think you. Excuse me. I think you just said it, but on the key considerations, I saw it on a previous slide, but with the 14,000 units, the production potential. So basically, you're saying that and that's not until 5 to 8 years, and then the 7+ years, and based on, I think it was a percentage that it's basically 32% of that number is how we would be impacted by it, the growth, potential growth for that.
Yeah, there's some information, so I want to tie everything back to this page that's in the appendix. So everything on the map, I think it's page 63 or 62. In page 62, where you see all of the stuff on the map is tied back to what the potential units are. Key thing that I want you to understand, just because there's potential units doesn't mean they get built. We've tried to put into our model a time periods. We'll get significant heads up to those things with the dirt work, the preliminary plats, the final plats. They're not all going to build out in that time period, but something is going to go. And so if you think about this, it's almost like a gravity model. We've put some influence on those that are within the first 5 years, that some of them may go based on some of the indicators the villages, cities have provided us with that timing component. When you go back to the page that I think you're referring to, that gives you kind of like just a general yield rate with single family or multifamily,
Yes.
that gets you in the ballpark of this. But when we look at by attendance boundary, you can see it oscillates quite a bit. And so that's, again, the beautiful thing where we've tied it back to those planning areas and what the value is going to be, when it's built, the potential square footages, type of developments. That's kind of built in, so we can say, here's what we think it will be. This is kind of a district average.
Thank you.
Good question, though.
Do you tend to see more students in new developments per 100 as far as a trend?
Good question, and the answer is it depends. And
dollar amount,
size. There's some other variables, but we for sure see more kids in a new development area just because there was no developments. We do see higher yield rates typically in new developments because it's new, it's shiny, it's cool, and if I compare that to something that maybe is older and I have to fix it up, we see some of those associations. So I would say yes, and that's how we've kind of modeled it, but it's within some of those price break points that will make sense for this community. When it gets too high, we may not see those yield rates. Or if we see a yield rate, it's more with older age students.
One other question. Oh, go ahead. No, sorry. In regards to your in-migration, and I know that there's no perfect science, but I'm just trying to figure out because I think this has the potential to blow up all of the numbers that we have, but there's no way of really being a true predictor. So how do you factor migration, the impact of migrating in based on what you just said?
Yeah, great question. So what's really cool about this is showing you like that 100,000 foot view by the grade bands. We look at this by building, and so we can see where we're starting to see what I would call a subdivision life cycle. Because it's sexy to talk about the new stuff, but we have more existing units. And so it's important for us to try to nail down how many kids are we going to get in future years as people that might be myself as an empty nester? I'm ready for something smaller. I move out, who's going to move in? And so that's why that affordability, the amenities that might be in those subdivision, those start to come into play. So this is that larger perspective, but it's literally tied down to each of the planning areas.
Can I ask about that real quick, though? Yeah. Sorry, can I ask real quick about that? Because, you know, I've talked to multiple realtors in the area, and the stuff you're describing isn't happening. There's actually something, and I'm curious if you've looked into that, because, you know, the people in my generation, a little bit older, that stuff's being skipped. We can't afford to sell our house. We could definitely afford to sell it. What are you going to buy? So there's a lot of people that aren't downsizing, they're staying in there, and I'm curious, like, if that's what you're seeing, because I gotta be honest with you, I've talked to realtors my age, a little bit older, they're not only seeing it, but they're also experiencing it themselves.
True, and so what my statement is more of just a generalization that is typical of how we would think of a subdivision life cycle. So that's one aspect. The other thing is how quickly are they turning out. So if we go back to 2008 with the housing downturn, everyone just kind of stayed in place, right? So if we look at now with interest rates being at 7%, I suspect we'll see a lot more people holding in place because of what I was saying earlier on that slide that ties back to the modeling, is that we have to anticipate interest rates drives what you can afford. It drives whether or not you can move around in the community. So that's the equalizer of movements. Do we see interest rates coming down? Probably not until after this election cycle, to be honest. I mean, when you look at last week with the Fed Reserve, so what does that mean? So these are adjustments, and so we have to look at this from more than just this minute time period. So I know my first interest rate that I had on a house, won't say what year that was, I'll give my age away, was like 12.5%, right? So that's like incredibly horrible, right? So it's still better now. It's all what lens and how do people feel about being able to move to housing product. That's what we're trying to nail in, and it's going to be slower for sure.
Would you also say, though, that the tight labor market is an effect too? Because I mean, the inventory is so low. And that's part of the issue too, is it not? Is that there's where are you going to go? I mean, affordable housing, good luck finding it, right? And you can't build fast enough because you don't have a labor force.
There's a myriad of issues, right? Supply chain, things that were set in motion with COVID, right? And we haven't really fully created what I would say a return to some of those cycles. That's why in this modeling, we're not saying anything about returning to what it was prior to COVID. It's more as we move forward. Hey, there's some positive things in your community with some development. Are there going to be challenges of affordability? Are there going to be challenges of the tightness of the market? Absolutely. But as we build more product, as the cities and villages, they're trying to tackle these here, much like any of the other communities right around here. That it's a real issue, affordability.
I mean, I have a list of concerns and things that I'd like to go, but I'll give my other board members a chance before I get into my list.
So going back to your projections, your instructional capacity, is that just are those just numbers that you've carried over, or I'm curious as to who determined that the capacity at Boulder Hill, for example, was, I can almost read it, 770?
Yeah, I think these are carryover capacities. I would have to boot this back to administration for validation of that. I know these are typically the numbers that we've used in the past, and I think they've been validated for.
Yeah, I'm not debating them. I'm just curious. Yeah. Where they came from. Okay.
Jared.
Jen, Amy, did you have something you want to say first? Okay, so I'm going to start at the top and work my way down. So the first issue I see on here that jumps out to me right away is by 2029, a 500 student gap between high schools. That's a problem. Anytime you have a 2 high school district, you do not want to become, or you don't want to encounter a situation where you have that much of a difference. It matters. I've seen school districts where that imbalance happens and increases and it causes issues. That's concern number one I have when we look at this. Concern number two that I have is Southbury. When I look at this, I'm alarmed, and I think there's some really low-lying fruit that we need to discuss like ASAP, which is you've got all this building south of Wolf, and right now they're all slated to go to Southbury. When I'm looking at this, I see a decrease happening at Wolf and Churchill. Like I know they're going to disagree with me, but plenty of capacity in comparison to Southbury, which is a problem. Listen, I would say it would be smarter to talk about south of Wolf, along Wolf, before talking about Prescott Mills, because moving them again is going to be traumatic for them. Although, I don't know, maybe they'd rather go to Wolf since it's right across the street. I'm not going to pretend to sit here and speak for the people at Prescott Mills, but that Southbury piece is alarming, and there's some low-lying fruit right now while those houses are being built. Like, I understand we're like, we don't have to do boundaries or whatever, but I think there's some stuff we need to talk about. And I am concerned with Trauber. I'm concerned with Trauber seeing an increase in 100 students. Some of that translates to Southbury. I think that's an easy fix. What else? Oh, and then this is going to sound like a weird worry, but Homestead, because it's really like locked on an island. It's sitting right next to the Wheatlands, which is decreasing, and it sits next to Wolf Crossing, which is also decreasing. So, I'm sure that's a concern as well, but in a different way. And, I don't know if that means the conversation of, well, can Bednarsik really house the three of them like it used to? And listen, I know that's going to bring up a lot of stuff too, but I also I'm worried about Hunt Club. I'm worried about the fact that going past 2029, my concerns are how many schools are south. Like, all of our schools are in the northern part of this district, and I'm looking at all this growth. We're going to have to probably have a discussion. Should Hunt Club really have anyone north of the river? Although some people would call that west of the river, but if you look at the map, it's kind of north at that point. Going to Hunt Club, especially when Fox Chase and Lakewood Creek are losing students. And so those are all concerns I have. I don't think that we have to redraw the entire school district. I'm not saying that. However, right now, south of Wolf, that's all slated to go to Southbury, and we don't have people there yet. I would think making a move sooner rather than later, because if you start establishing students to go somewhere, and then you tell parents, now we're going to move you to Wolf or Churchill when their student has already started at Southbury, that's delicate, and parents don't like that.
I'm glad you raised that. I mean, one of the things, couple of things, I'm going to invite Faith to speak to it as well. I know there's been some work on this already over the last year and a half, 2 years. We're going to really need to think about bringing the voices of our community into that. And so part of what you're talking about, yes, I agree. It's not boundary change, but there are some tweaks and really addressing those. There's also needs that go beyond population increases in each of our buildings. And so there are hidden impacts. So while the numbers may not grow, there are the needs in these respective communities also changes. I also would say that Southbury both has boundary and also issues around some of our special programming in those buildings that we also need to be able to think about. Faith, Ms. Dahlquist, do you want to add anything?
There you go. One more time. It's
Right
on.
now. Okay. So, yeah, right. So as you recall, we did just move some of our early childhood classes to Homestead because we saw that there, and thank you for all the information that was part of that move, looking at that they have room to grow for that. And then if you recall, we are now having dual language at Wolf's Crossing, so that for the overcrowding at Boulder Hill and also when you project growth for Hunt Club that you're worried about, those are the considerations that we went into for looking at that. And then we also, as we looked at Southbury, looked at the number of self-contained special education classes there as having some flexibility there to anticipate that growth. So some of the things that you talked about, we're already being strategic with where we're moving classes to.
And I appreciate that. I really do. I'm looking at this Southbury's lines stretch all the way from 30 and 117th all the way over to the river. First of all, have fun driving that, especially at certain times of day. That's number one. But number two, like I just feel like we're missing an opportunity right now with all that growth south of Wolf. And it's advertised only as 308 schools, and seeing that decrease at Churchill and the decrease at Wolf, and to your point, I do realize that, right? I get that piece, but
When you say missing an opportunity, I want to clarify language.
Sure.
Just so we're clear. Because in terms of timing, we're talking about engaging in a process to review and then and engage in making sure that our staffing and our supports are correct, and then making a plan for next year. I don't think this, unless we have significant, when you say worry, you're talking about developing an appropriate plan and responding. We just got this now. So I think we've worked very closely with our registration department and to address and to start to think about the planning required. I think your concerns are absolutely valid. We will take that as part of the study, and we will now work with the team, the registration department, our student services, and our various departments to really look at what we are planning in terms of supports, and then engage the right voices. I would be careful about, I just want to make sure the language, when you say worry, you're not suggesting anything for major
I'm worried about those numbers I see at Southbury. I look at that map. I'm obviously fully aware of Wolf Road and its capacity, and then I'm looking at the elementary schools that are near there. I also am aware, though. I'm also aware exactly what I'm saying. I'm probably going to go home and get a few emails and calls because there are people in Aurora who were told, "Oh, don't worry, that's not going to affect us. That's not coming here," right? And so, this is kind of a jigsaw puzzle that's going to be interesting at times, and especially to your point, where the growth goes.
So, and I know I want to make sure just as a summary, definitely noted. We're going to definitely be paying attention to those areas, thinking about east of Roth, and thinking about the Wolves Crossing area. So definitely duly noted. Absolutely, we will be working on that, and I appreciate you bringing it up. So we'll be working and make sure that we're both on the short term and the long term paying attention to both of these.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thank
You
you.
left us with a lot to work and think about. Has been raised. It's important, and I want to just applaud the board for its continued investment. We have even former board members in here who paid attention to these things through the years, and clearly it's made a difference in our work. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
All right, so we're moving to 7.1 Superintendent Report. Dr. Kilgotti.
All right. So, as it's been noted, this week we are celebrating Teacher Appreciation Week. Teachers represent the largest staff group in our district, and have an essential role in shaping the hearts and minds of our students. So we are grateful for them and all that they do. Just as a plug, please take a moment to use the online greeting card opportunity to send a shout out to your child's teacher. It's free. It's part of our, who will really make a big impact in your child's life. In this final stretch of the school year, just thinking about our teachers who are the champions and who've really spent infinite number of hours, really, you probably could keep counting and run out of time in terms of the amount of investment they've made, and really no individual has a greater impact on the lives of students. I was excited this past weekend on Friday to join the dual language program for their, the BPAC, for their dual language graduation ceremony. Such a powerful event, and thinking about the impact of education, we had a guest keynote speaker who was a student who was an alumni of our program, who is now a teacher. And so she is a dual language teacher at a program in a district not far from here. So Really exciting. Next week, and well, in less than 2 weeks, we will graduate the class of 2024. We have 2 commencement ceremonies. Some of us may be getting misty-eyed around the table. 2 commencement ceremonies at Northern Illinois University. We look forward to seeing the many faces of our excited and eager students as they begin the next chapter of their lives. It's a great reminder of the role and the impact that we have and that our district has on the lives of our students. Ultimately, that is why we are here. And behind these statistical demographic numbers is a child whose life is so important to all of us and why we rally together. We're excited to hear about the next chapter in their journey, and don't forget about us as you're out there yonder in the world. So, this is, can you believe it, our final meeting before the end of the school year, the academic school year. Doesn't feel like a long time ago we were starting. So what an incredible year this has been. We have learned so much about our district's strengths and opportunities. We've lifted priorities, a roadmap to get to those priorities and begin to launch. I want to thank everyone for their engagement, for the community members who've really come out, staff and students, Isabel, and for all your support. The student voices remain strong and are always growing. And we have pushed further. We have students who've come every meeting who don't have official roles, but we want to thank you for your support in every step of the way. This year and tonight, we will be bringing to the board a testament of this, which is we've worked to build our partnership with the union. We are bringing to the board a vote on our OSBA contract. And want to thank our union partners for their work together as we go towards this next step. Our labor unions have focused on our recruitment, retention, and rewarding of our staff, and tonight is really the board will consider a vote on this agreement. Working collaboratively, a comprehensive proposal was crafted that addresses the crucial concerns while fostering a positive working relationship between the administration and the dedicated support professionals within our educational community. If passed this evening, this is the second successfully negotiated contract this year, representing our commitment, the board's commitment to honoring the work of our education professionals. And we know we're not done. This is just the beginning of this journey, and where we will allow strategy to drive our processes, our values to drive our processes, and where we expect high achievement for our students. After all, that is why we are here. Equipping our students with the tools, knowledge, experience, and opportunities to strive. And when we collaborate across the district, be certain that each person knows that they belong here. Both parties in this process have committed to fostering a positive and supportive workplace environment that prioritizes the well-being and professional satisfaction of all employees. We want to thank our partners, and we also want to thank the board's investment in our people and recognizing the value of our people. And with that, I close my formal comments. I want to, again, thank the board for its support of all the work we have lifted this year. I want to turn, I know we have some other announcements and board announcements in support of this, because there are so many things to excite. That one night when I went, there were so many things at that Friday night, but I think Eugene, or who's going to go? Dominic?
Oh, yeah. We were at the dual language ceremony, and then we saw some baseball, right?
Baseball, saw some baseball.
Oh, I went to the prom.
And prom, I did go to prom too.
So yeah, that was an easy day.
Yeah.
Shout out, Oswego East Bass Fishing took third place in the IHSA sectional. Representing the school there for the first time, they will advance to the state finals. Cool. Congratulations.
Bass fishing.
Yeah.
We got it all.
Also, May 8th is National School Nurses Day. We join our entire district in thanking these healthcare professionals for their care, expertise, and dedication to the health and well-being of our SD308 community. Thank you very much, nurses.
OHS Track Panthers news. Lauren Broom is the SPC champion in the 300 low hurdles and the 4x200 relay team that took second place and is all conference. Sprinter Destiny Hicks named as all conference as a freshman, And boys track had a second place finish at conference in the 4x100. Nice job.
A few weeks ago, we celebrated our retirees and multi-year service school district employees at a beautiful dinner at White Eagle Golf Club. The employees who were celebrated have a combined 1,441 years of service and dedication to District 308 students.
Under OHS alumni news, Noah Shannon was recently signed as an undrafted free agent with the Las Vegas Raiders. That's awesome.
Iowa.
Okay.
OEHS Poetic Justice captured 17, count them, 17 awards at the SPC Literary Festival, the most of any school, placing in poetry, short fiction, personal essays, and descriptive sketches.
Wow.
That's great. And last but not least, let's help Sarah from Brokaw Early Learning Center win a bike from Project Mobility. Sarah is a 4-year-old and suffers from Rett syndrome. She lost several skills and abilities, unable to walk and talk. She loves water, music, and riding bikes and horses. And here's how we can help. Go to Project Mobility's Facebook page and like their page. And once you like the page, find Sarah's picture and like it. Voting closes tomorrow, so please go today and do it. Tomorrow at noon it closes. Tuesday, May 7th at noon. All right, so we'll move to 7.2, Student Ambassadors Report.
You go to the meeting. Good evening.
Good evening.
So typically, Luke and Isabel kind of kick off their student ambassador report. And Luke had a band concert tonight, so we did text him and tell him to be careful as he heads this way. We thank you for allowing them to go a little bit later in the agenda. We had hoped that he would make it. The Superintendent Student Advisory Committee presented at the Superintendent Advisory Group on April 11th. And so they have the presentation here, but just so everyone knows, they're not going to go through this whole presentation in this space. Ultimately, they really just want the floor to just share some of the work that they've been doing and then acknowledge the committee members who support all of their work. We know that Luke and Isabel sit at the table, but they have brilliant minds behind them who are helping to facilitate and drive this work. So without further ado.
Yeah, we don't have a big formal presentation because we have done a lot of work in the past couple of months to go to stakeholders and share kind of what we've been researching, but we just kind of wanted to talk about what the SSAC has been up to and just, you know, congratulate our members on a good year. We've been very busy. We were part of organizing 2 school-wide Ascend events, along with releasing a teacher survey that has served as the basis of many discussions over the past few months. We've also had the honor of attending the Triple I Conference in November and the first SD308 West Suburban Equity Conference, Ascend. In addition, our members supported the 3rd annual Amplify event led by the Coalition. Our members have been working tirelessly in representing student voices, helping so many be rightfully present in school. And I am so proud of all we have been able to accomplish. Our members include Sky Weaver and Joelle Sanchez. So I'll just have them share why they joined the SSAC.
Okay, so personally, I'm kind of new. I joined in January, so I remember Luke was telling me about it, actually. He was talking to me after Crystals. Oh, God, Crystals was a mess. But so he was talking to me about it, and he's like, this is actually really interesting. I think you'd like this. I heard you might be in it next year. Well, yeah, and I was. And he thought it'd be a good plan for me, and here I am.
All right, so going off a little bit about that, the reason I joined is so the board can hear our voices and hear our problems, and really to create more of a student voice. I know we have a lot of events that we recently have talked about. I think it went really well, and yeah, so.
And the members that were unable to join us today are Bella Johnson, Ian Roy, Brooklyn Martinez, Caitlin Cacatalo, Gabriel Lopez, Grace Gordon, Leanna Melton, Natalie Pope, and Hannah Rowe. And so again, just thank you to all the incredible members for their hard work. Along with them, I would just like to formally thank him, although he's not here. I'd like to thank Luke for being the most amazing student ambassador to work with. He's always there. He's always there to lead and help, and someone I'm proud to call a friend, and I am just so proud of him for his work this year and wish him nothing but the best. Lastly, I just want to thank all the adults that have guided us this year, Dr. Waller, Dr. Kelgati, Dr. Paul, Mrs. Early, Mr. Gatewood, Mrs. Johnson, Mrs. Bankowski, Mr. Artson, and Mr. Grays, just to name a few. On behalf of the SSAC, thank you for making this possible. We also want to thank all the student groups who have come to the board meetings to share their stories, experiences, and impactful work they are doing in the school communities. I hope everyone has an incredible summer and gets some well-needed rest after a very productive year.
You know, I want to assure you that you're heard, and then when you're speaking, listening very intently. So it's big impact. So it really is.
Absolutely. Thank you all for all you do. Thank you so much.
It's a fortunate yet unfortunate thing when you have so many talented, brilliant children who are involved in 85,000 things. And so we have definitely been pulling them into different spaces throughout this year. So just thank you, everyone at this table and in all the other spaces that we've been in that have received just all of the messages and the information and the passion that this group has brought to the table. So thank you again.
Thank you.
And I don't know if you heard, but the village of Oswego is looking to learn and model some of this good work here by having representation on their commissions, and is looking to partner with us in supporting that initiative. And so the good news is spreading, as they say.
Great. All right, moving to 7.3, board committee reports. We'll start with the finance and facilities report. It is, a summary of the report is inside of board docs, but if there are any additional questions or comments.
I wasn't able to attend, but I think that I can ask these questions.
It's just the finance and facility, excuse me, finance and facilities.
I'm sorry. I will say that we had a great meeting. We talked about fees for registration, meals, and facilities. The only real proposed increase is 10% for lunch meals. Breakfast will remain unchanged. And Amanda has done an amazing job of putting together rental fee classifications and understanding all the different groups that use our buildings and what that looks like, and really putting an assessment around it to make sure that people are paying for the times they use and that we are actually collecting on it, because we never have.
Ditto on the collection
part. And they are doing a very good
part.
job about communicating these changes. So I'm just really glad to see the process around that. So thank you, Mr. Obafemi. We also discussed the food service RFP process. The administration explained that the process changed from previous years by the state. The state used to dictate that we had to take the lowest bid. That is no longer the way that it is. So we did talk a lot about the lack of consistency across grade levels with quality and menu availability for the vendor that is being recommended, which is Aramark. And they have assured us that they will make the needed changes. And also Mr. Obafemi and Amanda and their team are very much committed to making sure those changes are realized and that all of our schools are getting exactly what they should be getting. So we will have frequent check-ins with our students to make sure that they are comfortable with the food choices, and they'll have QR codes around where they'll be able to give immediate feedback. So that is very important and something that we will expect is looked into. Mr. Obafemi is going to make sure that on at least A couple of times a year, the board is updated on what that feedback has been given from the students and staff regarding food choice, food menus, and so forth. Mr. Queen presented some bids for some exterior concrete work that they were hoping to get done this summer. Unfortunately, we really are at a position where we need to reject these bids and issue a new RFP to get a higher number of responsive bidders. It was an unusual timing, but you didn't have to dress up for the last meeting, Luke. What we really need to make sure is that when the bids come in, they adequately cover the scope of the project. Otherwise, we're really putting ourselves in a challenging situation. So we are going to send this out for bids. So we do ask that you reject these bids at this point. And finally, Homestead School, their administration.
I'm sorry, which one was that for again?
Or their PTA fundraised to put a new digital display out front of their school. And this is the way the PTA wants to spend this money this year. And administration went through the bid process and they got 3 quotes. The operations department, meaning the district, will cover $1,500 of it to adjust the base for the display. We did have vibrant conversation around the administration reviewing the use of marquees across the district as an effective communication tool. And I won't point out any schools, but there is a lack of consistency across using our marquees across the schools. Some schools have not changed their communication in 5 years. So it's just such an opportunity for us from a communication perspective. And we talked about, likewise, like when there's a board forum and it's at a different school other than here, we'd like to see communication the same on all of the marquees, so that it's just another way to reinforce and highlight events that are going on at your school or in the district.
I just have one clarification. This was just a misspeak, but you said 10% increase on the lunches. It's 10 cents.
10 cents. That is all we can actually increase lunches, by the way, by state law. So, yeah, I apologize. State law? 10 cents, sorry.
Great.
So it's going from $3.55 to $3.65 for junior high, and I don't have that in front of me. Breakfast is not changing.
So it's just 10 cents.
$3.25 for elementary and $3.65 for junior high and high school.
Thank you.
I just had 2 quick things. Question: have we had the discussion on that committee about sports fees, athletic fees?
We had some very interesting discussion about fees. Everything is being discussed, and I will say that we went a little off agenda the other day. They are going to bring us 2 things. They are going to bring us a cost per athlete, and they are going to work on a presentation for junior high sports and understand kind of what has been taken away and what we need to bring back to bring some equity to junior high sports.
That's good to hear. And then the other piece, I just want to clarify, when you say we've never collected, like, what do you mean by that? Because I know organizations that have told me they pay us, they write a check, and so I find it hard to believe that we've never collected on any of that. Not
any of it, but some of it.
Okay, some of it.
Yes.
Okay.
It was more
I
of
just
an
wanted to clarify, because when I hear we never, I don't want someone out there to think we've never collected money for facility rentals. Okay.
It was more of an honor system. That's what it was.
Got it.
Yeah.
That I appreciate. Thanks.
They have really dug into the processes and so forth in finance to understand where the needs are and where the supports need to be and what hasn't been done. So I apologize for that.
No. I just wanted to clarify.
Thanks. Anybody else for finance and facilities? If not, policy and legislation. Any other questions or updates?
I was just going to summarize. We mostly focused on legislation this time. We talked about priorities for we reviewed pending legislation. We talked about priorities for next school year, which I think we're still discussing, but we are also concentrated and dedicated to aligning some of those meeting topics with the legislative calendar so that we can act or advocate or communicate at the appropriate times.
I think communicate being the operative word, one of the things that we focused on.
Yeah.
I will say as a follow-up, I did attend virtually the IASB Advocate Ambassador piece, and one of the conversations that really came up was dual credit, right? And it was fascinating, the follow-up at the ambassador meeting, because everything that I thought I was seeing was pretty much was reiterated at that meeting, which was there was definitely an attempt to bring more equity statewide when it comes to access for high school students to dual credit classes. And when that bill was in the House, you could look at the witness slips, and virtually everyone who was in favor was somehow tied to a high school, and everyone opposed, and there were way more people out there speaking who were opposed, were tied to a community college. And so there was definitely that divide, and it's interesting because as far as the committee on the Senate side, it is stalled out. And so it's a tricky thing, and I don't think people realize how different it can be from school district to school district, and a lot of it depends on who your community college is, which is a little fascinating. I'll leave it at that. And it's hard. It's hard to navigate through, and there are definitely some questions that I asked about potential legislation. One of the things I'll tell everybody point blank, what I ask for is, I think if you pay into this taxing body and you pay into Wabansie as another taxing body, I think Wabansie should have to be transparent and produce something that says, here's the dual credit classes that we have with these school districts that we have a relationship with, where we're at in the process, and why we're stalled out. If we're stalled out because, I'll just use us as an example, if we're stalled out because Oswego doesn't have enough qualified teachers for dual credit, then I think that's a win for them to say that to the taxpayers, right? If it's stalled out for another reason, I think it's on the taxpayers to ask why. Why is it stalled out, right? And because you shouldn't have to just go 3 miles down the road to another community college district and find that they're working with everybody. And that's not, I want to make sure I'm clear, I'm not saying anything bad about Wabansie. I know that we have great relationships and everything. However, there should be more consistency, and I do believe that taxpayers should have access to that. And I'm just asking for transparency where those community colleges are so that people can look at that. I think that's important for people to also understand who are paying taxes into these things. And so it's a very divisive piece. I've had people in this community not happy with me about where we're at with dual credit. I've tried to explain exactly how complicated it is. A lot of people don't want to hear it. And I get it, but trust me, all you have to do is look at those witness slips, and it was eye-opening. And then when you realize it stalled out in the Senate afterwards, even more eye-opening. So there's definitely been some advocacy on the other side.
I think, Jared, it's really important to understand and explain why. There are 1 million fewer students going to college than before the pandemic. And what happens that the bulk of that is the entity hurt the most by that are community colleges. So if we are allowing dual language at the high school level, students have even less likelihood to go to a community college. Mm-hmm. So we are really seeing this all kind of come to play. And while we, that the team sat up there today, the students sat up there today and said, please help us with dual language. There's part of it we can do, but there's part of it that has to come from the community schools as well, willing to do that and to make that opportunity happen. But what's happening is because of so many kids have found out that they can start a job and make more money over their lifetime than they're putting off college. And then when you put off college, the likelihood of you going to college.
I'm going to slightly disagree, and here's why. Because if you really dive into where your dual credit classes are happening, they're actually happening in a lot of these rural community college areas, even downstate. The inconsistency is actually here in the collar counties. In the collar counties is actually where you see real huge variances. And so, like, I sat down with a senator down in East St. Louis, from East St. Louis, and he's like, I don't understand what your problem is. They're on board. We don't have any issues, this, that, or the other. And I think there's not consistency. I agree with you, by the way, in the fact that definitely community colleges have been hit by the pandemic. I don't know who hasn't, but if you look at the collar counties, that's where the inconsistencies are, and it doesn't make sense to me that we would have issues accessing, whereas like 204 wouldn't. There's only one difference, right? There's COD and then there's Wavansie. That's the difference. What's that?
I got that data from the National Student Clearinghouse. I was on a panel that discussed this, so it might be different in Oswego specifically, but that's a national.
Well, I'm not disagreeing with the fact that numbers are down, but as far as the inconsistencies throughout the state, I mean, they're there.
Okay. Any other questions in regards to policy and legislation? All right, great. Moving over to 7.4, board member comments. You want to go first?
I wove mine in.
Perfect.
Already, so.
Oh, you already did? Anybody else?
I just want to say thank you to our student ambassadors.
I do have something to say for them.
Oh, you have?
No, go ahead. You go.
So I just want to say thank you for your time and dedication to our community. I know. I know we will only hear and see great things from you all in the future, so please visit often. My last shout out is just for, teacher appreciation. I'm reminded with all the events that are happening in the spring, just how much time and effort our teachers put in, not just in the classroom, but outside the classroom, whether it's at prom or with LASSO or with honor societies or field days or whatever, is going on in May. It's a busy time. So thank you to all of those. Thank you for all those extra hours that you put in so our students have a great experience.
Great.
I just want to say, Luke, you look fabulous.
Exactly.
Thank you for dressing up for your last meeting.
Is it a Kodak moment?
All right, we'll get it. Well, I'll jump in, and I just wanted to say, just because this is the last meeting for our student ambassadors, and I've had the distinct honor of working with both of them for the entire year. And so the student ambassador role is not just about self-promotion or serving themselves, but it's really about them serving their peers and giving their peers voice to provide the board with student perspective that helps us govern. And you are not only servant leaders, but you have grown to be transformational in your leadership with all of the things that you have done throughout the entire year. And just to define it, transformational leadership is a calling, much more than a title. And this is from a quote from the Effective Leadership Prototype for a Modern Day. And a transformational leader does not care about how she is called. She only cares about what she has been called to do. And so you all were not only seen and heard, but your voices demanded that the board, the administration, and the teachers take action, and I so appreciate that. So Luke and Isabel, thank you so much for your commitment. Thank you for your courage to speak truth to power. Thank you so much for all that you have done throughout the entire year. You have played a very vital role, not only to help shape students in 308, but you have created a legacy that has already reached beyond the walls of this district, given all of the work that you did down in Triple I Conference. So thank you so much for setting a standard and blazing a path for future SD308 student ambassadors and the Superintendent Student Advisory Council. So on behalf of the entire board, Dr. Kilgotti, Dr. Waller, Dr. Paul, we all want to say how much we appreciate you and thank you for all you did this year. Any other board comments?
I just want to, I just wanted to share that I spent the last week experiencing arts in this district. I was able to stop in at Happily Ever Before at Boulder Hill, ranked at OE, Mean Girls at Trauber, and then the Fine Arts Night at Long Beach. And I truly believe that music and the arts really are something that are so richly embedded in this district, and it's something that I'm so incredibly proud of. While I also want to thank all of our teachers who truly are the heroes. They're one of the reasons that I ran for the school board, because I think they are the backbone of our community. And please, please, please just go send your teachers. You don't have to bring them massive gifts and so forth, but send them a letter of appreciation. It means a lot. Students, you can do that as well. And then we just came off of our OESPA negotiations, and part of that group are sign language interpreters. The first Wednesday of every May is National Interpreter Appreciation Day, which is May 1st. And I just wanted to recognize our sign language interpreters, the vital work that they do as the language gurus for our deaf and hard of hearing community. And I have a trivia question. Does anybody know who the most famous interpreter is in history?
No.
Anybody?
In history?
Yeah.
Interpreter?
Of the world?
Ann Sullivan?
We give up.
Sacagawea. And I'll let you Google and find out why, but something very important to know. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to 8.1, consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, please?
Make a motion to approve all items under consent, including 8.1 minutes from the Board of Education meeting on April 22nd, 2024, open and closed session. 8.2 to acknowledge the FOIA requests received by the district. 8.3 to approve the field trips for overnight and or more than 200 miles. And 8.4, the following board policy footnotes, legal updates and or updated cross-references. Section 2, school board 2:502:602:140. Section 4, operational services 4:204:110. 4:165. Section 5, general personnel 5:35, 5:40, 5:120. Section 6, instruction 6:40, 6:60, 6:185. Section 7, students 7:20, 7:185.
Any questions for the consent agenda?
You got to make a motion, or they got to get a
somebody
second
second.
first.
I'm sorry, yeah, second.
Oh,
Second.
second.
There you go.
Thank you.
No
Questions,
worries.
comments? Ursula?
Mr. Gatewood?
Aye.
Dr. Murillo?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Cerrone?
Aye.
Mr. Plover?
Aye.
Ms. Venman?
Aye.
All right, moving on to 9.1. Can I have a motion, please?
I make a motion to approve the 2024-25 contract with the Oswego Education Support Professionals as presented.
Second.
And that went fast. As far as we just recently kind of had the last meeting and a week later. So I guess thank you for getting that moved up and voted on. So that's all I got.
Great.
Mr. Cerrone?
Aye.
Mr. Gatewood?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Plover?
Aye.
Dr. Murillo?
Aye.
Ms. Venman?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-6.
We have members, our presidents, Nikki, congrats. All right. For the online.
Oh, yeah.
I would like to thank for myself. and
Would you tell the
Nikki.
audience who you are, just so?
Oh, I'm
Is that-
Quinn Wade, the OESP president.
Thank you.
I'm Nikki Rifkin, the OESP Vice President.
And on our behalf and our negotiating team, we would like to say thank you to all of you, HR, our board members, finance, everyone that was on your negotiating team and bargaining team for us. It was a transparent and effortless negotiation.
For the first time in years, I truly can say we felt that our voices were heard, our concerns were met with a respectable contract. We look forward to continuing, as you had mentioned, in the fall, our progress in the fall when we meet again. And I think the biggest thing is Nikki and I relish the relationships that we've created, and we're very proud of what we have done over the last few years to make some really good relationships and work hard to build the trust that you all have in us. And we truly wish to recruit, retain, and reward.
Thank you. That is awesome. Transparent and effortless. Voices were heard.
That is a dynamic duo right there, I'm just
Believe
going to
it.
say.
We know.
Awesome. 9.2, approval of building administrative contracts. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the building administrator contracts as presented.
Second.
Ms. Venmus,
Aye.
Mr. Gatewood,
Aye.
Ms. Johnson,
Aye.
Mr. Saron,
Aye.
Dr. Murillo,
Aye.
Mr. Ploger.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. 9.3, approval of district administrator contracts. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the district administrator contracts as presented.
Second.
I just wanted to make a really quick comment before we get into this. There's been a lot of community feedback about the district administrator positions that have been added. It's a very sensitive subject in our district. This past week, if you are in Kendall County, our taxes came out, and a lot of people were shocked, my family included, with a huge increase. What I think is very important, Dr. Kelgati and I have what we call crucial conversations with each other, and I challenge him, and I really do think that I hold our community's interest at heart. And we talked through this today very heavily. Those two things do not coincide with each other. You are not getting an increase in your taxes because we are adding administrators. I know that's a narrative that's going around right now. There is a lot of trust that we are asking for from our community right now, that trust the process, trust what we're doing, trust that we are trying to reach all of the goals that together that we've established as the community. And it does come with a lot of, we don't know, we've been with Dr. Kelgati for less than a year, and we don't know, but we are trusting the process, and we are trusting that all of the things that the board has asked him and his administration to do, that these are the ways that will get us to reaching our goals. So I ask everybody in the community, just as I asked myself, please trust the process. If it doesn't work, we will make amends down the road, but right now, this is the process. So thank you for our conversation today.
I'm going to add to that, which is a couple of tidbits. I know people don't want to hear about other school districts. I get it. Totally understand. However, it is important to understand trends, and if you are hard-pressed to find a school district that levied for CPI, you have to ask yourself what is going on, right? And I welcome the conversations about how we fund schools. That's a great conversation to have. It's a great conversation to have if we over-rely on property taxes. I would welcome that question. But we are seeing our staff that need more and more resources. They need more and more help. It's not less since the pandemic. And so we have to be cognizant of that. And I will say, to your point, we've traveled many roads in the last decade. And for those that were paying attention, I sat on a board that cut administration by 25%. And a lot of that hurt. And a lot of it actually led to scenarios where we were actually, in the name of saving money, not saving money. And so there is a way to not spend recklessly, which was done before I got on the board, where they weren't levying for CPI and the state was prorating and we were expanding administration all at the same time. And yes, that formula did not work. I've had close friends to me say, hey, listen, this is the same thing all over again. And I pushed back, quite frankly. And I said, it's not the same thing. The state starts prorating, let's talk. right? If we don't start, levying for CPI, then let's talk, right? But it's not the same scenario, and those nuances and the differences matter, and the historical piece matters, and so cutting people that we needed did not work, and that's part of the reason why we got to where we are. There is a limit what we can do, and I think it's incumbent on us as board members to advocate and make sure that people are aware that to continue to fund schools in Illinois this way, there's going to be a point where you can't go there. On the other hand, we're going to still need to fund schools. So that's going to have to be a real conversation on the other end as well. And so, listen, full disclaimer, my property taxes went up $1,000 from last year, right? I'm also looking at the fact that my property value increased a ridiculous amount over the last 2 years.
And that's why your property tax.
And that's why my property taxes went up. People want
Equalize, value.
people want to move here.
It's a relative.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yes. And to the person who said, hey, the board, what is it? They raised the rate and CPI. That's probably not going to happen, right? If the value of your house goes up, your rate's probably actually going to go down. But the good news is, and listen, I welcome all that because it's a learning opportunity for the entire community.
Yes.
And that's good. The conversation is good. The only thing I will say to the press out there is you are robbing other communities the opportunity to have the same conversation when you report that Oswego raised CPI, but you don't talk about Yorkville, you don't talk about Indian Prairie. Indian Prairie advertised it on their own site. You don't talk about Caneland, you don't talk about West Aurora, you don't talk about Plainfield. All these school districts that we touch that did the same thing. So please, I would say to them out there, don't ruin the opportunity for those communities also to have the same conversation that we have. And I'm not sure why we always have to have it, but I always welcome the conversation.
7th largest district in Illinois.
I just want,
Plainfield,
but
right.
I think to my point originally was, we hear everybody. We are not listening. We hear you. We will hold, the administration accountable for the budget, and we will make sure that we are reaching our goals. If you don't agree with the way they're reaching their goals, that's another thing. But if we are on budget and reaching our goals, please trust the process. And I know it's a lot to ask, and if you don't understand, I know anybody in this district, including the board members, would be more than willing to explain it. But I just had to state again, increases in your property taxes do not have anything to do with us hiring people, period. Thank you.
Ursula.
Okay.
Mr. Plover?
Aye.
Mr. Gatewood?
Aye.
Ms. Venmus?
Aye.
Mr. Saron?
Aye.
Dr. Maria?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. 10.1.
I just have. And with this motion passing, Dr. Paul, Assistant Superintendent for Learning Innovation, there's a unique opportunity this evening of who's being promoted and approved into this position, and I'm going to ask her to speak to it.
Yes, good evening, everyone. We have two of our just approved directors here for Learning and Innovation, Ben Owen. And Tony Holub, our new director of STEAM. And you guys are welcome to come up and say anything you'd like to the board, if you'd like.
Can you grab the mic, Tony, please, Anthony?
Yes, teacher's voice.
I got to be careful because I have a teacher voice still, and so I don't want to be too booming. As the new director of STEAM, it's a dream job for me. And I first want to thank the Board of Education for supporting investment in STEAM. I have been in the district since 2005, started at Thompson, and then I taught at Plank when it opened, and I became a project lead the way teacher. I've taught AP Physics, and I've had the privilege of serving as the Science Department Chair at OHS the last 2 years. And I just want to thank the board for their investment. I promise you it'll be, over time, a very wise investment. You're going to see some really cool things coming down your way. In my interview with 35 different individuals, I had a futuristic presentation that I gave, and I hope to deliver on many of those things, not by myself, because it's not about me. It's about involving everyone, amplifying and elevating voices. And so I talked a lot about that, and that's something I've gotten to experience in a small scale as a science department chair, but I'm really excited to work with early childhood, elementary, junior high, and high school to really elevate awesome STEAM experiences. I just want you to know that I also work at Argonne National Laboratory because I don't have enough already on my plate. I do STEM outreach there, and that's one of the things that really attracted me to this job as well. I've met people from Colombia, Japan, Tokyo. Well, Tokyo's in Japan. Sorry, I'm a little nervous here. Egypt, and Jamaica. These are individuals that have helped design the supercomputer that's at Argonne. They have done amazing work with electrochemistry, material science, and I go on STEM events into the community, and I work with little children who are really excited about hydropower and seeing that they're batteries too, and there's all kinds of crazy things we do. Those are things that I'm really excited about building as far as partnerships with industry and area communities, because I've seen it in the real world, and I want kids to see that. I want kids to experience that. That's what I really love about what I do, and it's a very big jump for me to leave the classroom after 25 years in education. But I promise you, I'm going to be very visible, and I'm just really excited to work with you all on really elevating what we do with STEAM in the district. Thank you.
Good evening. First, I want to say thank you for your dedication and commitment to providing opportunities and really focusing on making sure that the students here are prepared for their lives after high school, because that's so important. And I'm so passionate about this work. And I apologize to Dr. Paul, because she's heard this probably 3 or 4 times now. But my journey to be here tonight was not your normal journey. So I actually started out in industry. Received my MBA and worked in the business industry for 5 years, and had an opportunity in my last role to go into school districts and help students who are deemed non-college bound prepare for the workforce. And I left that experience by going back to my office and saying, I love that experience. And I quit my job and I went back to school, and I'm a decade into education now in a variety of different roles. But everything that I've worked towards has been about helping make sure that we're preparing all kids for their future, regardless of what that path is for them. And I'm just really excited to be a part of the great things that are already happening here, and the great things that are to come for our students. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And we also want to acknowledge Kate Lippold is here. Just want to welcome you to the community. All right.
10.1, transfer it over to you.
Okay. So next board, we have our financial statements and investment schedule. Any questions about this?
I just wanted to point out that we're making steady progress with our finances. And if you look at the investments portfolio, we actually ended April with close to $40 million. We had a cash flow call with our municipal advisor this morning. And what it shows without equivocation is we'll be able to make it through the end of the fiscal year without having to borrow any money. We're in good shape.
Ooh.
So we expect to be able to get the first installment of the tax distribution starting the 15th of June. So we have more than enough money to last us through that. So, and things are going well for us. Thank you.
So can you say that again once? Can you just repeat that?
Just for the record.
For the first time in 20 years.
I don't know if I've heard that.
Repeat that.
We're making progress.
Okay.
We're making progress.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you. And I want to be careful how I phrase this, but this is kind of one of those examples, right, of like we want to invest in people, we need to invest in people, and like we were giving away, I don't even want to know how much if you add it all together, but definitely tens of thousands of dollars every year just in interest to sometimes school districts that neighbor us. So thank you. Yes. Tremendously thank you. Yes.
10.2.
Okay, we have this evening, we're bringing to the board step 1 in our, for information, First Solutions Agreement. Amanda Sitar, any questions for Amanda?
So by the way of a brief introduction to what we're doing, we currently use First Student Solution to do routing for us in a limited way. And we do some routing internally with a couple of our staff members. And in looking at, I think I've mentioned this to the board over the last few months, transportation continues to be a tough pain point for us operationally. The operation is not as efficient as it needs to be. And I think this year already, the board approved a transfer or loan of $8 million from our working cash fund to transportation fund. And we know we cannot continue on this path. So we're looking at every aspect of transportation, making sure, above all, that we provide excellent customer experience for our customer, the students who ride buses, as well as their parents, who are their parents. But we can do that and still manage the operations well. So one of the ways we're doing that is looking at routing and looking at expanding routing and doing it in a more efficient way. So we reached out to 3 major firms, actually 4 firms, and have them submit respond to a request for routing solution for our students. And the best submittal that we received is from First Solution, the firm that we already use for some of our routing. We asked First Solution to do regular transportation routing as well as special ed transportation routing. In addition to that, they will also be doing out-of-district routing. Those are kids who are McKinney-Vento and other kids that are placed out of district. So what we've shared with you is the breakdown of the pricing that they gave us. We believe the pricing as well as the services and the experience of this firm coincide with what we need in the district. The company currently works with a couple of major districts. One of the districts they just took on is Springfield Public School in the state capital, 186. Springfield decided to have them do all their routing for them this year. And so far, the response from the folks there have been very positive about the work that First Student Solution has done.
Thank you.
Do you know if it'll be, I'm sorry, just a quick question. I mean, I see that outsourcing it there. Will they be on site or will it be something there? Will they be doing it remotely?
They'll be doing it remotely, but they will partner with one of our senior personnel person. And in our case, it will be the assistant director of transportation. Okay. We'll work with them. By doing this, it offers us the opportunity to be able to have some efficiency in personnel instead of doing it internally. Doing it internally, we were doing okay, but having First Solution take over this, we'll do better, and we'll be able to save some personnel resources that is currently directed towards routing.
Is there additional,
Amanda,
sorry.
do you want to ask a question? Go ahead.
Is there additional software that we would have to purchase licensing for, or would it just?
All inclusive. The pricing that he gave us is all inclusive.
Okay. 10:43. Oh, did you have a question?
Transportation. Okay, so I have a couple of questions. Every year I feel like transportation comes to us and is asking for more investment, more of this, more of that. But consistently at the beginning of every school year, we have major issues. Not that we're not going to have some issues, that's going to happen. People enroll late, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Does this solution that you're recommending give us the ability to have a smoother start to school?
It's part of the solution to that. The bigger solution, in our view, is the operation management of the department. And we are working on that right now. And we hope to have that in place before the start of the new school year. So this is not a panacea. This is one of the process along the way. But the bigger change maker will be the operation management of the department. And that has been a challenge to date. Part we're working towards trying to fix that.
I'll give an example of that. So part of the work that's been done, and we want to thank our OTA partners in this, is there was a handbook, operational guide, to guide the practices of the department. So that is being finalized, right? So there are, so there's the operational, and there are the technical elements. We've made some significant shifts in our staffing there, and we are anticipating some continued alignment around those efficiencies that we believe will make a big difference. First Student was problematic around some elements of it in the past. What we did is we identified those soft spots that needed to be repaired, right? So how do we fix those things? And so Mr. Obafemi and Ms. Satar have worked to identify where are the ways that we can improve that for next year. And so I would say the biggest win is really the partnership with our union partners around the communication and making sure that there's an increase in that and regularity and the smoothness to that.
Okay.
We absolutely have no choice. We have to do this.
Right.
The way transportation has negatively impacted finances of the district, we can't wait.
Right.
We have to fix it. If we do everything else right and we don't fix transportation, we'll continue to lose money, and we can't afford to do that.
So will this be an ongoing line item in our budget then? Like, should we consider this as this is going to be something that we do? Because last year it was $40,000. The year before it was 70 something. So whatever this is, this should just be something that we are now going to see as a line item and just part of the transportation.
Yes, but the offsetting cost that we are reducing to pay for this. So this is not in addition to existing expenditure.
Okay.
This
Okay,
is,
thank you.
we've teed up offsetting cost.
Okay.
So it will not increase the expenses.
That
We
helps.
can't afford to do that
I was
with
just gonna,
transportation.
that's
We
what I was
absolutely
kind of
cannot.
getting at
Yeah,
because
that
we
makes
already
sense.
are in
No,
the
Yeah.
red there. And then
Well,
my next question is, will we have, will people be able to be, whatever this, trained on or whatever prior to the start of school happening?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We cannot start working with the firm until we get board approval. But as soon as we get board approval, we're going to hit the ground running.
Already?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
We are going to, as soon as we get approval,
So
we're
June
going to get the
3rd,
ground
after
running.
the board's approval.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that we currently work with this company, and
Oh, that's
so there wouldn't be really any training. They're just going to take on more of our routing, and working with our internal people to get that. And also, another great thing is that they offer a 24 to 48-hour turnaround, where I know some parents who move into the district or who move or change homes or change daycares are often waiting
Yes.
weeks
Yes.
to get a better route. So this is really going to help the families and the students really get back on track. So we're hoping that this is a great solution. It's relatively inexpensive to the other ones that we have found, and we have high hopes for it.
I don't remember if we did this or not. Excuse me, but I remember it coming to us, and board, please refresh my memory. But there was a GPS/software with an iPad. I don't know if we actually was that a part of what we approved, and if so, how will the new routing affect that technology?
It integrates with it, so we won't have to buy any new software. That was TransFinder.
Okay.
And they implemented the iPads this year. So all of that, their system will feed into our system, and then it also will be able to export that to PowerSchool to let parents know notifications. So it all talks to each other.
Good.
Raphael and I were very clear with the company that we needed these things to be handled well, and they said that they could handle it.
Okay.
And this is a multi-year agreement.
I saw that 3 years.
And even before we brought it in, I had a conversation, a very frank conversation with the managing director of First Student Solution. He and I had a couple of frank conversations where we made our intentions very clear to him. And we also talked about the KPI that we're going to be using to see how effective the solution is.
That's wonderful.
We know we absolutely have to do this.
That's wonderful.
We have no room for error in getting this right.
Okay. I think Amanda and Raphael are becoming the muscle of the district. You guys go get them.
Thank you both for your attention to this and your support. Okay.
10.3?
Okay, Mr. Queen. And
Yes, good evening. So I've invited Mr. Nathan Baldwin principal from the Homestead Marquee conversation that Ms. Johnson touched on a little bit earlier. He's got a presentation that we would like to share with you. Take it away, Nathan.
Any questions?
Thank you guys so much.
Good
Oh my
evening.
God. I'm sorry for interrupting you. I'm sorry, but thank you all so much.
Mr. Baldwin, please.
Good evening. My name is Nathan Baldwin, the proud principal of Homestead Elementary. I appreciate the opportunity to tell you about the possibility of a new Homestead Elementary digital marquee. Now, why do we need a digital marquee? A new digital marquee would give us the opportunity to communicate with the community in a quicker way to what is happening at Homestead. We would be able to recognize students and staff throughout the week. We could talk about our Husky Way winners and how they are respectful, responsible, and ready, or tell the community about how great the fifth graders were at their musical, or show how much we appreciate our teachers during Teacher Appreciation Week. It provides us with another opportunity to tell our story at Homestead. Kind of the timeline and the process that was spoken of a little bit. Our PTA raised the funds during the 2022 and 2023 school year through our Boosterthon in order to purchase the marquee. The sign cost $25,296. They donated that money to the school. Our current marquee kind of looks like this, which is fantastic. It allows us to change the letters and messages usually throughout the school year or about once a month. With the new, we can put a few events on there at a time, but we don't have that opportunity to recognize staff, different events that are going on, or different celebrations. These are just kind of what is part of the new sign with the different displays, with the different banner control, some of that wireless communication, and kind of what does that look like. This is just kind of a mock-up of what the sign would look like with that bigger base and those adjustments. You know, with this marquee, we'd be excited to give every Homestead Elementary student a chance to put their name in lights. What questions do you have?
2 quick questions.
Yeah.
The size of the new marquee versus the old sign, do you know? Is it this, the old one just looks a little wider, but if you don't know, that's fine.
I think it's about the same size, I want to say, besides the bigger base.
Is it is it double-sided, the new sign double-sided?
Yeah, double facing, double sided, yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. Other questions?
Go ahead.
No, I just want to thank you for following our bidding process.
I just want to thank the parents over there.
Oh, yes.
You know, it's and any community members involved. It's exciting to live in the 9th Ward of Aurora. I'll be honest with you, and some great things going on. And you know, at the heart of all that are the schools, for sure. And so, thank you for all you do. Thank you to the parents. Just wonderful over there. It's a great place to live, and that's part of the reason my house went up a lot in value.
It is.
Yeah, thank you. Our PTA organization, homeschool organization, does a fantastic job over there, and it's been great to be part of that community.
Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you, Mr.
so much.
Might be some
10.4.
other PTAs raising funds for design digital signs.
Mr. Queen?
Yes.
We have multiple, it's here, Mr. Obafemi and Mr.
No, I got it. Multiple concrete. This is what we were asking to reject all bids so we can go out and try to find some work. Not that Abby didn't do a great job at bidding. We just have nothing to compare it against. So we would be looking to reject all bids on this.
All right, thank you. 10.5.
The process is working.
Oh, sorry.
It is.
Okay. 10.5, we're going to discuss fees, registration, meals, and facility rentals.
Yes, Board Member Johnson went over this. We had information at Finance and Facility. We are only raising lunch 10 cents, and we did come up with better classification for our renters, and to make sure that they're accountable and they know what's coming up. So we have let them know that the fees right now are status quo for the rest of this year, and they will take effect July 1st. And that includes also branching out to say if they're going to make some of our staff come in on weekends, holidays, before or after hours, that they will be charged an extra fee. It's all in there, and so they'll know exactly what's coming when they get billed.
And you said that there were going to be 3 sets of communications prior to this taking place.
Yes.
So everybody is aware of what's going on.
It was really important for us, Jared. You asked this question earlier. Not only are we making sure we're more than willing to share our buildings with our community, but it needs to be, if it comes at a cost to us, to the district, the people that rent the facilities also need to take on that cost, because it's fine if you're using it during school hours or when we have custodians on staff, but when we have to bring them in, we need to make sure that cost is covered by any entities using it so that we're not absorbing that cost. Amanda, you did a fantastic job on this, and I love the chart. It's so easy to read and just very much appreciated. Very
Thank you.
straightforward.
Yeah, I don't know, the only thing that I'd like for us to kind of monitor is if we're, losing any renters, I guess, and kind of keeping track of their feedback.
Will do.
Definitely.
Thank you. We will.
One of the things that we talked about, especially with like the partnerships with Oswego Land Park District and other organizations, is that neither one of us want to cost the other one money or have a financial burden on either organization. So we just have to come to some kind of agreement where that's a win-win for everybody.
Well, we thank you for your attention to this and your information on this. So. All right, 10.6, Mr. Obafemi, energy contract renewal. And Ms. Sitar, Amanda.
Thank you. So our contract for energy is coming up. I believe we signed a 4 or 5 year contract with Constellation back right before the pandemic hit, and we were able to really take advantage of some low rates. That is now going away. Obviously, we're in an election year, and with inflation and everything over the past few years, the rates will go up. However, we have reached out to several companies to get quotes, and the prices are anywhere from 0.3 cents to 5 cents for natural gas, and
electricity.
3 to 6 cents per kilowatt for electricity, and it's very uncertain right now. What I'm proposing is that we do a 12-month contract, get through this election year. We will secure the lowest price that we can with Constellation, who is our current carrier. They were the lowest by far out of probably 8 different companies that we tried to bid out. Another thing that we found were that these companies or these brokers were taking a piece of the pie. So they were helping us get the lowest rate, but then they were adding that price into their broker fee. So we obviously don't want to do that. We just probably stay with Constellation, like I said, for 12 months, and then reassess at that time.
Thank you for your due diligence. Any questions for this? Okay. Thank you again. Next, we have a similar update regarding our property and casualty insurance policy.
So thank you, Dr. Kogati. One of the big cost driver for a district our size is the cost of insuring us, property casualty as well as workers' comp. And so what we've been doing, we've been targeting major cost driver in the district. So we started talking to different entities to try to find out if we can get better pricing than what we have currently. And at the end of the day, we ended up with 2 firms who have the ability to be able to insure us, because an organization our size, not a lot of company can write us a policy that we need to be able to cover us. So the company that we currently have is ICRMT. It's funny. We have a brokerage firm that placed us with the Illinois County Municipal Risk Fund. And that's the firm that we've been with for the last 16 years. The funky thing about that is that those are counties. We're not a county, we're a school district. So if you think about it, counties, they have jails, they have police officers, they have firefighters, they have EMTs, they have nursing homes. Their risk profile is higher than the school district. We don't have any of our employees who carry guns. We don't have any of our employees, who run jails or prisons. So that was troubling, but we decided, we'll give them an opportunity to give us a quote for what the pricing would look like for next year. We also contacted a collective liability insurance co-op, which is a co-op that was started back in 1983 that focused exclusively on school districts and special education co-op, but education. So those members' risk profile mirrors our risk profile. They insure school buildings. They provide insurance for employees, for workers' comp, who work in school districts. So we asked them to provide us a quote, and lo and behold, the difference in quote between the firm that we've been with, that placed us with ICRMT, the county pool, and the commercial liability insurance co-op that insures exclusively school district, the difference in price is close to $900,000, $811,000. And the interesting thing is also that we actually get more robust coverage with CLIC than we were getting with our CRMT. So what we're asking for, I include a package that shows the price comparison, and it breaks down all the different types of insurance coverage that we get and how much we'll pay for it and the comparison between both quotes. And we are recommending that the board allows us to join commercial liability insurance co-op. In prior appointment in other districts, I've used CLEAT. Their claim process is very easier. Their price is always comparative. No one can actually match it. And it's just a well-run co-op. And the difference also that I didn't point out, the board of directors of ICRMT is made up of counties. A school district can be a member, can defray some of the cost of the risk, but we can't be on the board that make decisions about how claims are handled or about how the co-op is ran. With CLIP, since it's all school, it's actually ran by school district. We can sit on the board. The school district actually make decisions about the operation of the co-op. So we have a voice in how decisions are made. With ICRMT, we have no voice because we're not a county. Only counties can sit on the board.
Thank you, Mr. Oh.
It's amazing what happens when you start asking questions.
Yeah.
Spending
Well,
money.
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to we need quality people. It's called an investment, right? And so we're looking at better coverage, better rates.
I mean, perfect example. And the part that I also want to point out is we know that when you change coverage, especially with the issue that we're dealing with a claim that was made against the district now, we wanted to make sure just in case a claim like that came up, we also asked the new firm to quote us.
Stopgap?
Yeah, he said, no, it's prior claim, prior claim insurance. And the cost of that is actually included in the quote, and it's still cheaper than our current provider. That's a one-time cost of $250,000, and it will protect us for any claim prior act that goes back from 2021, I believe, all the way till the new policy that we have.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. So we looked at everything. We were trying to make sure we didn't have any gaps in coverage.
So I was just kind of going through everything here. Am I to understand this correctly, that the first company did not cover us for sexual abuse or molestation? I mean, that's kind of what it says here.
What they're doing is they have not, what they did, they went out to the market to shop around for pricing. They have not received a commitment from an insurance company yet. that they will be able to write us a policy. So they put
I
a
don't-
placeholder in here and said, if we get you coverage, it's going to cost you X. But they have not actually been able to secure coverage.
So it would be more.
So one company, so the first company is excluded,
Right.
and the second company, the one we're talking about going with,
Right.
is full limits.
Yes, 37 million coverage.
Well, that's not,
Yeah.
I have no comment on that. It speaks for itself.
All right, well,
All right. Next, 10.8, workers' compensation insurance policy.
Same thing, except in this case, instead of property and casualty, it's workers' comp that is required by statute. And the rates, it's included in there, it's better pricing, more coverage than what we've had with our current provider that we've used since 2016.
Okay. Okay, 10.9, resolution for membership in the property casualty workers, casualty insurance workers' compensation insurance cooperatives.
As I mentioned earlier, we have to become a member of the co-op, and that's the resolution that the board has to approve in a meeting in order to be able to join the co-op.
Okay. Questions? Okay. Next one, 10.10, policies for first read.
I did have a question.
On the last one?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
First read on the policies, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. It was 2:4 student ambassadors, and maybe I just don't know what the definition of executive session means, but board will annually appoint a student ambassador from each high school to serve in an advisory capacity. The student ambassador will not have any voting privileges and may not attend executive sessions of the board.
Closed session.
So that's closed session.
Should be closed session, right?
Now,
I think that's the
this
attendance.
seems like a,
Isn't that what executive session? That's the same
yeah,
thing.
just to me, it seems like a redundant thing, because, like, why does that need to be there? Because can't we invite them? Can't we invite anybody?
I think we
The
can
closed
invite
sessions?
anyone we want to close session.
But this reads to me, except student ambassadors, they're like forbidden.
Well, that's because of the state. That has
Yeah.
nothing to do with
Yeah.
us.
Okay.
Yeah.
By different states have different laws. Illinois school code does not allow you to invite to executive session. So
Okay.
that's not our choice. That's
Yeah.
Press Plus policy.
Okay.
And there is a lot of liability with giving students information that's in closed session, and we don't want to do that to our students.
No.
Oh, yeah. That, obviously, it wouldn't be for the entire thing. I was just.
Yeah.
Okay.
But by the way, though, Dominic, I'm very happy you asked a question about this, because just so everybody is aware, it does specifically, just to dispel any kind of rumors out there, it does specifically say that you have to be a resident of Illinois and the district, right? So you got to live here for at least 1 year, just so everybody's aware. That's in our policy. So just thought I'd throw that out there. As long as we're talking about that policy, make sure everybody's aware. All right.
Huh?
Okay.
Hey, listen, it was a long week last week.
Yeah, for other.
Hey, Brian,
Thank you.
that policy is going to have to be updated.
Other questions?
Scott Kim's name.
Nope.
Nope.
Okay. Mr. Chair.
All right. Action items 11.1, approval of bills for payment. Can I get a motion, please?
Make a motion to authorize the payment of bills in the amount of $4,039,440.70 as presented.
Second.
And just for those that are aware, I'll be abstaining tonight for my usual reason whenever it comes up, so.
Got it.
Ms. Venmus?
Aye.
Dr. Maria?
Aye.
Mr. Saron?
Aye.
Mr. Gatewood?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Ploger?
Abstain.
Motion passes 5-1. 11 point,
It's 5-0.
5-0.
5-0 and one abstention, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
11.2, approval of food service RFP. Can I get a motion, please?
Make a motion to award the RFP contract to Aramark for an initial 2-year agreement.
Second.
Dr. Maria?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
No.
Mr. Ploger?
No.
Mr. Cerrone,
Aye.
Mr. Gatewood,
Aye.
Ms. Venmus,
Aye.
I will say this, and I'm pretty sure, I don't want to speak for you, Board Member Johnson, but I'm actually happy it passed because I like the process and everything, so I just want to clarify. But I do think it's important to send a message, even though Aramark received this, that we're watching, and we did have student voice. And so I want to say thank you to the board members because, you know, in this instance, you're governing, right? But I don't want to speak for Ms. Johnson, but I know for me it was a matter of I wanted to respect student voice, and I want to make sure that they understand that it wasn't a slam dunk. So I want them to know we're paying attention.
Motion.
I absolutely agree. That is why I did, but also, I don't know if anybody went through it. I actually put a chart together, the difference in the ratings of how it was so close between the three vendors. And honestly, for a fifth of a point, for less than 0.01% of being the difference between the two top vendors, it was really, we could have awarded it to any of the top three. That's how close it was. It just was so close. And when our students write to us and tell us that they want something different, it's very hard. So that's why I had to say no.
I appreciate that. And I just want to reinforce that we did do reference checks as well with other vendors, and I will say, and just to that the scales would have still tipped towards Aramark when we looked at the other vendors' references in terms of some of the work we did. There was some additional due diligence that was done by our CFO around some of the other ones. So, but I appreciate the candidness and the vote. Thank you.
Motion passes 4-2. 11.3, Montgomery Abatement Agreement. Can I get a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the Montgomery Abatement Agreement as presented.
Second.
I'd like to say a few things before we vote tonight. I want to say that I welcome businesses to this community, and I truly understand the need to diversify our tax base, which is why it's so important to support businesses here. They bring jobs to our community and needed economic activity and services to our residents, which are all super important. I have no doubt that the businesses involved in this tax abatement that we're going to vote on tonight will do just that, bring services and support to our community. However, for me, it's been frustrating as an advocate for public schools to learn about this trend nationwide, which provides, tax breaks or, forgoes taxes for $1 million businesses. To Jared's point earlier, where you're using property taxes to fund schools. So when we delay collecting full taxes from businesses, that impacts what we can do in our schools. And until we are funding schools differently, these are hard decisions for me. However, we are living in the systems we are living in, and I know that an increase in taxes is better than no increase, or a collection of taxes is better than no increase, which is why I'll be supporting this tax abatement tonight. But with that said, I want to say that I've learned a lot from this process, and we look forward, I think, as a board and the administration to continuing to build bridges and partnerships with the businesses in our community. So thank you for the learning journey that I've gone on. The only other thing I'll add is I know in some of the documentation we received, there will be votes in other taxing bodies about this tax abatement, and that we could forego a vote on that. I'm not prior to learning to wait until we learn what other taxing bodies are doing. I'm not suggesting that we do that, but I would ask that the administration or our representation tell us what the results of those taxing bodies are on this matter.
I'll be happy to. And one thing just to make clear, the taxing bodies are looking at us before they vote.
Yeah.
Because we're the largest taxing body. But we'll provide you the tabulation of the results once they are made.
Thank you.
There was one piece in here. Oh, I should have it open, which kind of helps with the abatement is that the debt service piece isn't abated. So that will help. That will spread out across the entire community. That part. So that was a pretty good negotiation there that will impact, for a long time.
Explain what you mean by that.
So whatever is being used, whatever the value of that property is, will get fully assessed for the debt service part. So whatever we have a $36 million annual tax payment.
Yeah.
That will not get abated, or debt payment.
Right.
That will not get abated from them.
And I think there was a recognition on all parties. They need to make sure that once debt has been issued, we have an obligation to pay it back. And I think there was a recognition on all parties. I need to put that provision in there. It's an important provision, and yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, where we've gone, where we were and where we've gone. It's been a learning process, and we're at a better result.
For sure it has.
And,
yeah.
And I want to obviously recognize and thank. We have a couple of Montgomery board members here that's a demonstration of their commitment to the school district to sit here that long. Thank you. Number one. But number two, this is how they've been. And listen, I agree with you, Amy. Like, these are tough decisions. They're tough things that we're thrown into. But it's always, I think at the end of the day, what people really want to see is they want to see government function for them. And so I applaud them, I thank them, because it's always been productive. Even when we don't necessarily see eye to eye, it's still always productive. And there's a way to not see eye to eye around here in local government and still work and function, right? And so I thank you for that. And I just want to say the last piece, like, I know that, speaking, I think you brought it up, the tax piece. One thing to think about, right? We have, like, what do we have, 24 facilities, something like that, thousands of workers. We serve, right? We serve the community, and that's why we're so large. And because we fund things through property taxes so heavily, yeah, people are going to look to us. So, but at the end of the day, we're trying to help kids. So that's what we got to do.
Thank you, though, Dr. Murillo. You really synthesized everything that's gone on, and I totally agree with your synopsis. So thank you very much.
That's great.
Ms. Venmus?
Aye.
Dr. Murillo?
Aye.
Mr. Cerrone?
Aye.
Mr. Gatewood?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Ploger?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. 11.4, approval of stormwater easement. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the easement release agreement as presented.
Any discussion?
Second first.
Oh, sorry.
Second.
That's all right. Don't worry about it.
Vote? No questions.
Mr. Cerrone?
Aye.
Mr. Gatewood?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Ploger?
Aye.
Ms. Venmus?
Aye.
Dr. Murillo?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. 11.5, approval of IGA with Village of Oswego. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the intergovernmental cooperation agreement between the Village of Oswego, the Oswego Library District, Fire District, Park District, and School District, providing for the study.
Second.
Any discussion or questions?
Dr. Murillo?
Aye.
Ms. Venmus?
Aye.
Mr. Cerrone?
Aye.
Mr. Gatewood?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Ploger?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. 11.6, approval of cooling towers. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to award the contract for Commercial Mechanical Inc. Let me start over. Make a motion to award the contract to Commercial Mechanical Inc. for the Boulder Hill and Long Beach Cooling Towers project in the amount of $421,500.
Second.
Any questions or discussion?
Ms. Venmus?
Aye.
Mr. Cerrone?
Aye.
Mr. Ploger?
Aye.
Mr. Gatewood?
Aye.
Dr. Murillo?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
Aye.
Motion
Get it done.
motion passes 6-0.
Well, anything.
11.7, approval of Parent University Partnership. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the partnership with Parent University.
Second.
Questions, discussion?
Mr. Ploger?
Aye.
Dr. Maria?
Aye.
Mr. Saron?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson? Aye. Mr. Gatewood?
Aye.
Ms. Venmus?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. 11.8, approval of consolidated district program application. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the 2024-2025 Consolidated District Plan.
Second.
Questions, comments? Vote.
Ms. Venmus?
Aye.
Mr. Saron?
Aye.
Dr. Maria?
Aye.
Mr. Gatewood?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
It's getting late for you.
Mr. Ploger?
Aye.
Motion
I can
passes
see-
6-0.
I can see if it was Jatewood.
Right. 11.9, approval of additional 2024-2025 district administrator contract renewals.
Second.
What, I didn't, we gotta make a motion first.
Oh.
Make a motion to approve the additional 2024-25 district administrator contract renewals. I gotta ask for
Second.
any kind of motion.
I changed my mind.
I'll second.
Thank you for seconding. No discussion?
Mr. Saron?
Aye.
Mr. Gatewood?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson? Aye. Mr. Ploger?
Aye.
Ms. Venmus?
Aye.
Dr. Maria?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. 11.10, approval of personnel report. Can I get a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the personnel report as discussed in closed session.
Second.
Any additional discussion?
Mr. Gatewood?
Aye.
Dr. Maria?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson? Aye. Mr. Ploger?
Aye.
Mr. Saron?
Aye.
Ms. Venmus?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. 12.1, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.